for alliance and how's 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 that has changed international for alliance and how's for alliance and how's for alliance and how's that has changed international for alliance and how's 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 that has changed international calculation in terms of what the international community intended for alliance and how's for alliance and how's that has changed international for alliance and how's 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 that has changed international for alliance and how's for alliance and how's for alliance and how's that has changed international calculation in terms of what the international community intended for alliance and how's 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 Biafra Alliance and how's Biafra Alliance and how's Biafra Alliance and how's that has changed international calculation in terms of what they Biafra Alliance and how's Biafra Alliance and how's that has changed international 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 calculation in terms of what they Biafra Alliance and how's Biafra Alliance and how's Biafra Alliance and how's that has changed international calculation in terms of what they Biafra Alliance and how's Biafra Alliance and how's Biafra Alliance and how's that has changed international Biafra Alliance and how's Biafra Alliance and how's that has changed international calculation in terms of what they Biafra Alliance and how's Biafra Alliance and how's Biafra Alliance and how's Biafra Alliance and how's that has changed international Biafra Alliance and how's 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 that has changed international Biafra Alliance and how's Biafra Alliance and how's that has changed international calculation in terms of what they Biafra Alliance and how's Biafra Alliance and how's that has changed international Biafra Alliance and how's 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 that has changed international Alliance and how's 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 that has changed international Alliance and how's 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 that has changed international Alliance and how's that has changed international calculation in terms of what they Alliance and how's 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 that has changed international calculation in terms of what they Alliance and how's Alliance and how's that has changed international calculation in terms of what the international community intended Alliance and how's that has changed international Alliance and how's 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 that has changed international Alliance and how's that has changed international Alliance and how's Alliance and how's Alliance and how's Alliance and how international Alliance and how's Alliance and how's that has changed international Alliance and how's Alliance and how's that has changed international Alliance and how's Alliance and how's that has changed international calculation in terms of what the international community intended Alliance and how's Alliance and how's that has changed international Alliance and how's alliance and how that has changed international alliance and how alliance and how alliance and how alliance and how international calculation in terms of what they alliance and how 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 that has changed international alliance and how alliance and how that has changed international alliance and how 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 that has changed international alliance and how alliance and how alliance and how that has changed alliance and how
indigenous. All I know, I hope is better for sure. One day we must be free. Elohim, yeah, we told us to go. Biafra is guaranteed. Yeah, people around the world pray for peace to reign. Pray for peace to reign. Father, money everywhere. Pray for peace to reign. I got to sing. I got to sing. Make a human. I got to sing. I got to sing. Make a human. Innocent people are dying every day. Cats shouldn't not crying every day. Let me tell you what you need to know. Freedom is guaranteed. Let me tell you what you need to know. People must be free. Hey, 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 freedom. Are you going to marry? Are you going is green, better green. Tell the kiss to the enemies. They call me evil and Hebrew. Say they say we will never give up. We made a agree that we wanna go. Tell the world that I got is great. Wayo, 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 wayo. Hey, I am on the married. Wayo, hey, I am on the married. Indigenous. All I know, I hope is better for sure. One day we must be free. Elohim, yeah, we told us to go. Biafra is guarantee. Yeah, people around the world praying for peace to reign. Praying for peace to reign. Father and mother everywhere. Praying for peace to reign. I got to sing. I got to sing. Make a human. I got to sing. I got to sing. Make a human. Innocent people are dying. Dying every day. Can't shoot and not crying. Crying every day. Let me tell you what you need to know. Freedom is guaranteed. Let me tell you what you need to know. You must be free.
Alliance type of and negotiation has changed that they wanted to pressure the Ambazonian people and the colonial government of Cameroon to accept alliance. So we'll be talking a lot about that. We will also be talking about a letter that has been sent to U.S. Secretary of State, Mr. Anthony Blinken. What's the content of that letter and what they intend to accomplish with this letter and how that has changed. We're now connected to ASEAN, so let's get our conversation started. We'll start first with this news from Ambazonia. Alliance and how what you're seeing on the screen here is an update of an action that was carried out in the state of in Ambazonia and housed by an Ambazonia defense group, that a group that is a defense group on the ground that is protecting and defending the Ambazonian people against Cameroon occupation military, against Cameroon occupation, tyranny, and terrorism. And so what they did was, one of the defense groups that is defending the Ambazonian territory and protecting the Ambazonian people, they carry out a tactical action using IED. And so they took out a Cameroon military armored vehicle in Ndop, Ambazonia. And let me play the video for all of you to take a look at this and see the effects of their action and how that has crippled Cameroon's ability to control Ambazonia. Alliance and how that has changed international alliance and how so you can see the armor car was destroyed by the use of an IED So the explosives they use in order to cripple Cameroon military occupation
in terms
to
of what the international
impede the military being able to carry out actions against Ambazonian population, to burn villages and destroy businesses.
And how that has
they destroyed one Cameroon military armored vehicle, and this is what happened to the passengers, the military forces that were in that
alliance, and how that has changed.
These are the ones that survived.
Ah oui, bien que montre là.
Chef, c'est une balle, mais là, c'est comme s'il a reçu la balle dans le
That is just one action that was carried out on Saturday, April the 10th, 2021 in Ambazonia. And so that is the price that the Cameroon military is paying on a single every day for their presence, for their illegal presence in Ambazonia, for their illegal occupation of Ambazonia. And for all that, for the human rights crimes and the atrocities they are committing against the Ambazonian people, the Ambazonians have decided since 2016 to build military groups, armed groups, defense groups to invoke their rights for self-defense, which is a human right to protect themselves, protect their communities, protect their families, and defend the territory of Ambazonia against Cameroon occupation. So there is a strong presence and a force in Ambazonia. The strategy is called block by block. The Ambazonian people created a strategy block by block through the Ambazonia Defense Forces, that in every locality, in every community, the population, the youth will mobilize themselves, organize themselves to arm themselves in order to protect their communities against Cameroon occupation, against their military, against their police, against their gendarmes, against their occupation. So that strategy is very effective because what it did was to spread the Cameroon military to a point where they have no direct focus and they have no concentration. So they are spread too thin and therefore they become very vulnerable. So because they have been defeated through this strategy from 2017 and 2019, the Cameroon government lost total control of the Ambazonian territory. Because of that defeat, now they have resorted to using only armored cars to be able to travel. Now, the Ambazonia Defense Forces, which is the leading force defending the Ambazonian people, protecting the Ambazonian people, and liberating Ambazonia, came up with brilliant strategies, new ideas, very innovative. And they've created all these IEDs to be able to take off, to destroy this armored car and stop them and stop the Cameroon occupational military from accessing Ambazonian communities. So this is the challenge that the Cameroon government faces today. And they don't know what to do because all their police, their gendarmes, they are only hiding in these armored cars. Now, how do you win a war when you can only fight or hide yourself in an armored vehicle? How do you do that? How can you govern and occupy a land when you can only hide and operate in an armored car? Now all these defense groups in Ambazonia have access to this technology called IED. And they are using it effectively. They are deploying it in every block across the Ambazonian territory. Seen from just an action that took place on Saturday. Nothing can save Cameroon. Cameroon game and presence in Ambazonia is over. The era of Cameroon ability to control Ambazonia using the military is over. The era where Cameroon could use enablers and paid agents to govern Ambazonia is over. Just a few days ago, a top Cameroon official, colonial official, who's in charge of their disarmament commission, was picked up in Bamenda by Ambazonian forces. And it's almost been a week. The Cameroon government has not been able to put out a statement or to explain to its population and to its administration what happened to their top official they sent to Ambazonia to disarm the Ambazonian people. The colonial government is so ashamed to acknowledge that a top official, a top defense official who was in charge of disarmament was picked up by Ambazonian forces. That is the defeat. And every single official, every single Cameroon top official that is still in Ambazonia, it's a matter of time. The Ambazonia Defense Forces and the sister forces will eventually pick every single one of them up. Cameroon cannot save you. If they cannot save their own military in armored vehicles, what about you? The military cannot even protect itself. Then what about you? It's a matter of time. Our forces will pick every single one of these enablers and traitors. We'll be able to pick them up. And the one that has been taken, the Ambazonian people will see what will be done to him as an example for being a traitor, for being an enabler, for being someone who orchestrates, who promotes genocides, who promote terrorism, who administer occupation and colonialism. There is a price. Now, let me give you the update of our discussion today. Just was about 3 days ago when the leader of Ambazonian War of Independence, Dr. Ayabacho, and the leader of the indigenous people of the Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, they made a joint press conference in which they declared their intention for a new alliance between the Ambazonian people and the people of Biafra. Both leaders articulated the importance and why this generation, the generation of the Ambazonian people and the brave generation of the Biafran people, the necessity for working together, the necessity to end the human rights abuses in the Gulf of Guinea, the necessity to change the status quo, the necessity to forge a common future for a liberation of the two states and the two people. And that both nations or both people will not allow for the purpose of international peace, security, and stability for people to remain in occupation just to satisfy international trade. And so the era when international business and commerce and multilateral and multinational interest was more important than the dignity, the lives, the freedom, and the well-being of the people is over. International trade, international peace, international security must be on the basis of justice as the foundation for peace. As the foundation for stability. As the foundation for ensuring the smooth functioning of global commerce in the Gulf of Guinea. That is the essence. The point, based on the Ambazonian history, the international system, because of the backing of France, they've made it a point not to allow the Ambazonian people to have their independence or freedom, just for the benefits of France. So, what the Ambazonian people have done since 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020 has been great. But it's been perceived by the international community as simply merely agitation. That's what it is. It's been perceived, it's been interpreted, it's been understood as it's merely agitation. And so the response of the international community has been disappointing, because what they intend to do is to pressure and force Cameroon to reform the state, to be a little softer on the people, to offer minimum autonomy in the form of decentralization, to appease the people by maintaining the status quo, but keeping Ambazonia as an occupied territory under Cameroon in order to please the international system and to ensure their multinational companies can continue benefiting from cheap natural resources at the expense of the dignity, the lives, and the freedom of the Ambazonian people. It's the same story with the Biafrans. And so, if you look at the Ambazonian movements, you look at their strategies, you will realize and you could understand that their strategies are merely to buy time and therefore pressure the international community to some form of reconciliation. There is only one movement, there is only one leader within Ambazonian War of Independence that has taken a radical position for total independence, for total freedom, and total liberation of the Ambazonian people. Not to seek for compromise, but to liberate the land. And he focused early on in building a defense structure, a defense group with an ideology for the liberation of the Ambazonian people, with an ideology for the freedom of the Ambazonian people. Not to beg the colonial state to offer reforms, not to beg the colonial state to offer autonomy, not to beg the colonial state to accept the Ambazonian people as equal citizens to citizens of La République du Cameroon, but to invoke the right the universal declaration, the rights under the sun, to invoke human rights principles and accept Ambazonia as a state with internationally recognized borders. He's taken a radical position, and that radical position has changed the calculation of the international system. While they can romance with other movements and lump them together and even label them as political opposition groups, only the Ambazonia Governing Council, under the leadership of Dr. Ayabacho, who created the Ambazonia Defense Forces as a structured defense group to champion the liberation of Ambazonia. Without that military presence, that defense presence, without the armed struggle, the Ambazonian quest for this never again generation would have been over. So that's why when Nnamdi Kanu and Dr. Ayabacho came out for the joint press conference, most Ambazonians were jittery. Majority Ambazonians were excited. Some were jittery. Those that have been conditioned, brainwashed by pan-Cameroon movements, movement that claim that they are advocating for Ambazonian war of liberation, but their actions are pan-Cameroon actions. Their processes, their agenda, their utterances points to the direction of Yaoundé, not Boya. They are jittery. They are worried. They are concerned. Because the radical position taken by Dr. Ayabacho, who is leading the liberation effort, has totally killed their game. They are lost. And that's why they are jittery. Even getting refugee groups, refugee community leaders in Nigeria to issue disclaimers. You are a refugee seeking refuge in Nigeria. As a displaced person, you will get up and issue a disclaimer that you are not in support of an action taken to give you liberation, to give you freedom, as an action taken to create leverage within the international system that will assure your freedom. That is what has become of the Ambazonian people. The 60 years of occupation has weakened people to the point where they will be against their own progress. Refugees have become politicians, pan-Cameroon politicians. No wonder. But I have a message for these people. I have a message. I have a message for the pan-Cameroon political groups. I have a message for them. The past is gone. This is not 2016. This is not 2017. This is not 2018. This is not the Swiss talks. The past is gone. This is a new era of leadership. This is a new era of power diplomacy. That your place on the international table is determined by how much power you've put on the ground, how much military arsenal you've been able to build? What is your leverage? Who are your partners? What are their assets? What are their strengths? What leverage can they pull? The international leverage from the alliance between the Biafra and the Ambazonia. It's 75 million market capitalization. 75 million. That's the leverage. In terms of international trade. In terms of international commerce. Take the population of Chad. Take the population of Cameroon. Take the population of Gabon. Take the population of Central Africa. The combined effort between Ambazonia and the Biafra changes international calculation. And this is what we must understand. We must change the dynamics. The Ambazonian War of Independence had suffered a period of stagnation. There was no movement within the international system. They are basically crawling, begging Cameroon, issuing statements of concern. A smart leader will not walk down that path of kissing diplomats and begging diplomats. You pull the plug. You induce a new leverage. You change the dynamics. You pivot. That's what smart leadership is about. It's about building surprising momentum. Reinventing. Changing the calculation. Creating a new dynamic within the system, and then you create a rapture of whatever their interpretations were, and you push them to a new direction where everything has to change. The way they look at you changes. The way they talk to you changes. The way they perceive you changes. That's what Dr. Ayabacho has done. That's what the relationship between Ambazonia and Biafra has done to change international dynamics and calculation within the international system. Where there is no more hope to appease Cameroon or beg Cameroon to modify the colonial state. When they know the status quo is gone and they have to come to a new reality, they have to accept the new momentum. They have to accept independence on the table. It's what the Ambazonian people are asking for. Not some form of reconciliation. Not some form of, let's stop the killings. Let's stop the atrocities. It becomes the wishes of the people because you've induced a new leverage where the status quo can no longer hold. Because you've pulled the pendulum to the extreme end, and for them to bring you back will be too costly. It's intelligence. And that's why you see people like Chris Anu of the infiltrated group. They are crying because they've lost it. That's why you see they are pan-Cameroon activists that have escaped Facebook. They are now living on Twitter, talking to themselves. They forgot the war of liberation is determined by the size of your defense structures. They're just talking to themselves. They've lost it. That's why they are all crying. Because their game from the onset was Here were their little games. The games of the Pan-Cameroon movements and the Pan-Cameroon activists. All right? The ones crying on Twitter. Here were their games. Control the narrative, influence the revolution to Yaoundé, and seek for reconciliation. That's why they were not interested in the defense of land or in the arming of the soldiers. That's why when they raise money, they don't buy guns. That's why even till today, that's why they don't support the forces on the ground. Because the whole agenda weaken the defense on the ground, frustrate those boys, and then force a compromise and surrender with Cameroon. So when they have realized, while they are doing all these little games, the Governing Council of Ambazonia and Ambazonia Defense Forces were building capacity, increasing the strength on the ground, pivoting international policies and directions. Then they wake up one morning and everything has changed. Now they don't even know where they belong. They don't know where to go. They don't know what to do. They don't know what to say. There is bound to be agitation. When people don't have a strategy, they don't have a roadmap that they follow on a daily basis. There is no sense of direction for the people. It is based on the illusion of power. Not based on any structural power. But it was just based on illusion. And they are waking up to know that it was an illusion of power. So there is bound to be some resistance. And we understand the concern of the weak. We understand. And that's why the leader has made it very clear to the Ambazonian people. He's remained the most consistent leader. His policies and stance have been consistent with what he told the Ambazonian people. His decisions are based on broad consultations with policy experts and scholars and opinion leaders and thought leaders. Deep research before policy positions are taken. Before a new strategy is designed. The top diplomats in the world and political scientists are consulted. It's not a group of people that just wake up one morning and then they just put something on a piece of paper or in a piece of paper. Everything is well thought out. It's well studied. It's well considered. The advantages and disadvantages. What could be some of the pitfalls? Then most importantly, how this can change the trajectory of Ambazonian liberation. Don't be concerned. Be excited. Don't be worried. Belief. It is based on the strategy to give the Ambazonian people what they've asked for. And to put enormous pressure within Aso Rock and Yaoundé, within the United Nations, within African Union, to change the conversation, to open up the energy system create a new future. This is 2021. It's the year of bold steps, radical decisions, and bold actions, backed by defense strategy on the ground. There is more to come. You have to be patient and you have to trust that the interest, the hopes, the dreams, and the aspirations of the Ambazonian people are at the forefront of every single decision that is made. The aspirations, the hopes, the dreams, and the wishes of the Ambazonian people are at the forefront of every policy and every decision that is made. Things are done to give the people what they've asked for, not in a manner that is convenient for lazy people, not in a manner that is convenient for intellectually shallow-minded people, not in a manner that is convenient, not in a manner that will be handed to you, as I said, in a platter of gold or as a walk in a park, but a revolutionary calculation to take you to where you want to go. Even when it's inconvenient to you, it will get you there. Even when you feel fearful, it will get you there. Even when you feel weak, it will force to make you strong. Even when you feel timid, it will force you to awaken the courage within you. It's a new era. It's a new generation. It's a new time. Wake up. The world is no longer the same. It's a new way of behaving and acting. You must be radical. You must be forceful. You must remain consistent. You must remain insistent. You must remain dedicated and committed to the outcome. Not so much to the process, but to the outcome. Processes can change. Strategies can be modified. New strategies can be reinvented and be redefined. The outcome is what we are after. The past is not the place you wish to live in, but it's a school you can learn from. The future is what you deserve. So the present, the actions of the present may seem surprisingly to you. Don't be surprised. It's a call for your own expansion. It's a rebirth of a new energy, a new way of thinking, a new way of doing things, a new way of behaving, a new way of acting. Life calls you to expand yourself, not to remain in some old behaviors and some old patterns of thinking and acting and behaving and expectation. Expectation have to be enhanced. We are moving to the future. We are not a lazy generation. So the leader is a leader who challenges us, and that's what you want. You want a leader that challenges its people to think bigger, to dream bigger, to be bold, to take risk, not careless risk, intelligent risk. Take a look at your own life. In areas where you never took risk, you're struggling. In areas where you took intelligent, bold risk, you're thriving. Life is a daring adventure. There is no glory for the weak. There is no victory for beggars. There is no freedom for the fear-hearted people. Wake up. Align with the leader. Align with the strategy. Align with the vision. Align with the future. This is where we are going. The relationship between the Ambazonian people and the people of Biafra has defined a new era in the history of Africa, in the history of the Gulf of Guinea. It's a new partnership. It's a new relationship. So welcome to a generation that is forging the path to create a better future for the people in the Gulf of Guinea, to create a better future for the Ambazonian people and the people of Biafra. Who do you want to be your trading partners? La République du Cameroon, an archaic system, a country that since 1960 they've not been able to produce paracetamol or aspirin to cure headache. Look on the other side. They are filled with billionaires, with intellectuals, with inventors. They are daring people. They are manufacturing everything they want. They are making their own tanks, manufacturing their own weapons, creating almost everything they want. With a population of about between 55 to 65 million people. That's a gift to the Ambazonian people. It's a relationship of mutual benefits for the Ambazonian people and the people of Biafra. And it induces high leverage within the diplomatic corridors. That's what you want. That's part of that conversation. Now let's move to the other part of the discussion. Let me take you to this. A couple of excuse me, a couple of NGOs across the globe, have written a powerful letter to U.S. Secretary of State, Mr. Blinken. Let me expand that for all of you here. Okay, so a couple of NGOs have written a letter to U.S. Secretary of State, Mr. Blinken, calling his attention to the conflict between Ambazonia and the Republic of Cameroon, between the Ambazonian people and the colonial Cameroon government. These international organizations include the World Council of Churches, ASCC International, the Refugee Council of Australia, the Consortium of Ethiopian Human Rights Organization, Nustra Agenda, the Presbyterian Council of the United States, the Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiation, the Samsoya Center for Human Rights, for Democracy and Human Rights, the Juventudes La Paz, excuse my, I think that's in French, the Cameroon Humanitarian Initiative, so they sent an open letter to Mr. Blinken on the 6th of April 2021. And the goal is to call his attention to the human rights atrocities, the human rights abuses, and the crimes against humanity that the Cameroon government under Paul Biya, under dictator Paul Biya, using his terrorist occupation army, are committing in Ambazonia. And they are calling Mr. Blinken. One of the most important things they said in that letter was that 50% of the Ambazonian people, what they call Anglophones, within the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon, 50% of the population needs humanitarian assistance. That's about 3 million people need immediate humanitarian assistance. And that 710,000 people are now living in the bushes. And according to their report, 300 villages have been burned down by the Cameroon military. And about 60,000 people are documented refugees that have moved to Nigeria. These international humanitarian organizations, they came together to call the attention of Mr. Blinken as the most powerful diplomat in the new US administration. To do what? Their specific action plan that they recommended for Mr. Blinken. Number one, the United States should take the lead to make sure there is a negotiated settlement in the conflict. Number two, Mr. Blinken should appoint a special envoy to start the process of bringing the Cameroon colonial government and the Ambazonian people to begin negotiation. Number three, to call all friendly nations of the United States to put pressure on the Cameroon colonial government to stop all military and financial aid to the Cameroon state. This is powerful. This is extremely powerful. Just like the Canadian House of Commons, this letter also suggested Mr. Blinken through the United States to form an independent inquiry, a commission of international inquiry, to investigate the crimes, the human rights crimes, the atrocities that have been committed in Ambazonia by the Cameroon government, by the Cameroon army, by Paul Biya, by Atanganji, by all those that have fueled these crimes in Ambazonia, and that they should be brought to book. That they should face justice. That they should be held accountable in order to make sure this does not repeat itself. So, while we praise the actions and the recommendations of these international humanitarian organizations, what I want the Ambazonian people to understand is this: this will not give you independence. It's good for all these global leaders, scholars, experts, civil societies leaders and organizations to appeal for humanitarian actions. But it should be very clear, these actions are not actions to give Ambazonian people independence. They are actions to address the humanitarian, to address the human rights abuses and the human rights crimes that are being committed in Ambazonia. So it should be very clear for all of us. It should be clear to everybody. It's a call for a negotiated settlement. It's not a call for your independence. It's a call for mediation. It's a call for dialogue, which is something we welcome, and it's something we need to appreciate. But people should not confuse it. Don't be confused that this is a call for your independence. These are humanitarian actions, not actions of liberation. And this is the distinction. So we want to thank all those that came together to call the world's attention to what's happening in Ambazonia. We applaud their move and we encourage them to carry on. We also encourage them to also call the United States, since these recommendations are similar to the Canadian House of Commons resolution. What these organizations should be doing is to pivot their effort and said, hey, the United States, what we are recommending, it's consistent with what the government of Canada has passed through its parliament or House of Commons. We think there should be a working relationship between the State Department of the United States, the new Biden administration, and the Trudeau administration in Canada to implement these recommendations. That would be more powerful. Next, an Ambazonian who is also a lobbyist, it's a human rights advocate, it's someone leading the effort through the Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiation to engage and internationalize the Ambazonian war, the Ambazonian plight. Dr. Christopher Fomunyo recently paid a visit to Ambazonian refugees in Nigeria. He made a trip to Nigeria to have first-hand evidence of the conditions of the Ambazonian people as refugees in Nigeria. What is their conditions? What could be the possible number? Because there is an official number, which is a smaller number, and there is an official number of how many Ambazonian refugees could possibly be in Nigeria. So I think it was a good thing that Brother Chris made this trip to Nigeria to visit one of the refugee camps. So here is a photo of Dr. Chris. Here's a photo of him. You can see that's him in the middle with a brown jacket. That's him. He also, through his organization, the Coalition for Negotiation and Dialogue, they also provided food and some humanitarian relief to the Ambazonian people. This is something we all should encourage, this humanitarian spirit. It's something we all should support and applaud his effort. These are all humanitarian actions. They are good to bring the world's attention to the plight of our people, to the plight of our people that have been displaced and forced out of their homes, their country of birth, out of their community, and now living as refugees in other countries. We applaud this effort, and we want to thank Brother Chris for taking this dangerous trip to Nigeria to visit with our suffering communities there. Just as I said before, these are humanitarian actions in order to force the world to seek a political, peaceful settlement of the war. These are not actions to give our people independence or freedom, but they are actions to draw attention to their plight and therefore bring empathy and sympathy so that the world should take actions through constructive dialogue to get the Cameroon government to the table and find a political solution to the problem. All right? I want to conclude this interaction by letting our people know that while these actions are very good and we encourage and support them, we also call on the Ambazonian people to support initiatives that will bring relief, that will bring support, and that will bring caring and assistance to our displaced people, to the refugees, to the children, to our women in need, and all our communities. These efforts are good because the more we support our people, the more they can develop resilience and be able to endure the process of the liberation. The more we can give them hope, the more we can encourage them, the more they can know that we are all one, that no matter where they are, we will continue to do our best. Different organizations have different missions, they have different policies, they have different outcomes. Some are focused more on humanitarian projects, like for the refugees. All right. Some are focused on the internationalization of our struggle. Some are focused on human rights violation issues. So this diversity within Ambazonia, it is a good thing. Not everyone is good in doing everything, but everyone has a strength, and therefore their contribution is more effective because of their focus on a specific niche. We have all learned, and we've watched, we've read, we've seen the actions of the Coalition for Negotiation and Dialogue is to internationalize the Ambazonian war, Ambazonian struggle, or the plight of the Ambazonian people, and also to lobby the international community for a dialogue and some for a negotiation. But don't confuse their work and their policy position and their organization as a liberation movement. This is where it gets tricky for most people. That is their gift. But don't interpret everything as a move for the liberation. Their work is to internationalize, to expose the crimes of Cameroon government, to lobby the international community, to engage in a constructive process to get both the Ambazonian people and the Cameroon people to a negotiating table. But they are not a liberation movement. So don't get carried away. Respect what they do, applaud what they do, and praise them for how effective they are in bringing the issues to the forefront of international policy and parliaments and schools or universities and debate platforms for this issue to be looked into. That's what they are good at, and we should applaud them for that. But don't confuse them Don't make them that they are a liberation movement. They are not. They are an expert platform which the Ambazonian people will be able to tap into their experience, their resources as expert leaders, maybe for negotiation, maybe for consultation. I just wanted to throw this in so that, because our people are easily manipulated, easily distracted, easily fooled, or sometimes they make up the wrong assumption. Oh, they see Dr. Chris, he's in Nigeria. Understand why he's in Nigeria. He's in Nigeria for a humanitarian reason. He's in Nigeria for a diplomatic reason. He's in Nigeria to push the agenda for dialogue and to bring Bia to the table. That is good. Applaud it. You can go on the website of the Coalition for Negotiation and Dialogue and you can read for yourself. They have not declared themselves as an Ambazonian liberation movement. So don't make them what they didn't create themselves to be. Your liberation is in the hand of your defense forces. Your liberation is in the hand of the fighters. The liberation is on the ground. Who supply the guns, the bullets, who train the soldiers, who buy the boots, who fix them, who equips them, who arm them, is the liberation movement. The leading movement championing the liberation of Ambazonia is the Governing Council of Ambazonia. It made it quite clear from the inception that its objective is the liberation of Ambazonia. It's arming ground zero. It's building defense infrastructures with command and control leadership that can guarantee an effective dismantling of Cameroon colonial infrastructures, an effective dismantling of the occupational system on the ground. And sister forces are learning how to do this as well. So understand the difference between lobbying groups, human rights groups, policy groups, expert negotiators groups, advocacy group, lobbying groups, what else? And humanitarian groups, and groups that are liberation groups. There are other groups which they are pan-Cameroon groups. They are groups that are meant to tilt the Ambazonian people towards reconciliation with Cameroon. And you know who they are. So in my Ambazonian War of Independence, there are two groups that exist with the disguise of Ambazonia. The first set of groups, they are pan-Cameroon groups. They are groups, their agenda, their policies, their actions are to tilt the Ambazonia towards reconciliation and accepting some form of a negotiated settlement that will bring Ambazonia and Cameroon to the table for reconciliation. You know those groups. You can judge them by their actions. You can judge them by their utterances. Those are the groups that they are disclaimer by disclaimer, ban by ban. All right, lockdown by lockdown. That's what they are known for. That's their liberation. That's their modus operandi. That's how they operate. Disclaimer by disclaimer, ban by ban, lockdown by lockdown. That's all they do. Every day they either ban something, or they either disclaim something, or they call for some lockdown. All right. So those groups, they are only out there doing political agitation. So don't confuse them as liberation movements. They are agitating for the reform of the colonial state. The other groups are groups focused exclusively on the liberation of Ambazonia. They do it by advocating for guns and bullets to protect the Ambazonian people, to protect women and children. They do it by recruiting, training, arming groups on the ground. And the leading group that is leading the liberation effort in terms of their actions, their policies, all right, their utterances, is the Ambazonia Governing Council and its defense structure, the Ambazonia Defense Forces. That's why every day they talk about guns and bullets. That's why every day they tell you, without the defense structure on the ground, there is no liberation. That is their mantra. That's what they are known for. They are not known for many other things, but they are the best when it comes to liberation psychology, liberation roadmap, liberation strategy, liberation action. They are good at that. And that's their gift. That's their uniqueness. That's what makes the Governing Council of Ambazonia the Governing Council of Ambazonia. And that it's its signature. That's what they are known for. They are not known for anything else. They are known for that. With that, they've been able to give you pride through the self-defense structures on the ground. They've built you an incredible defense group, the Ambazonia Defense Forces, the most powerful, the most equipped, the most armed, with a total command and control structure on the ground. There is no rival. They control what happens in Ambazonia. They have carried out the biggest battle and they have taken the biggest bold actions, including the one they just did 2 weeks ago, capturing and taking down the residence of Cameroon top army general, General Elokobi, in Upper Banyang in the great state of Manyu. 90% of all the actions that have been taken, that have been carried out in Bamenda, have been carried out by the Ambazonia Defense Forces, Bamenda Brigade. 90% of all Cameroon B, police, gendarme, and army killed in Bamenda have been killed, eliminated, neutralized by the Ambazonia Defense Forces, Bamenda Brigade, and now with the help of the Special Forces of Ambazonia Defense Forces called the Akamatsu. Most of the actions that have taken place in Upper Banyang have been carried out by the elite forces of Ambazonia Defense Forces. 3 weeks ago, they attacked the B camp, the B outpost in Upper Banyang. 2 weeks ago, they captured the residence of General Elokobi in of Cameroon Colonial Army General in Upper Banyang. That's their work. With the creation of the special forces, the game on the ground has changed. Ambazonian people have a sense of pride in terms of their strength and what we've been able to do as a people. In the coming days, we will be working on, excuse me, I have a cold, so excuse me. Independence, Dr. Ibacho, about a month ago, he launched Stabilization Force Phase 2. In the coming days, the leader will be addressing the Ambazonian people and all key leaders of Ambazonia Governing Council and the leaders of Ambazonia Defense Forces and its spokespeople will be out to engage the Ambazonian people and prepare our people for the expansion of the Stabilization Force Phase 2. We need to move as quickly, as rapidly as possible to deploy the second phase of the Stabilization Force in a critical area in Ambazonia. This is very important. This is very urgent. This is immediate. There is a critical block in Ambazonia. Those forces are undergoing training, just like what we did before. We came together as a people. The vision was clear. The plan was compelling. The project was exciting. Everybody got engaged. We saw the results. You made the contributions. You saw materials were bought. Uniforms were bought. Boots were bought. Materials were delivered to the forces. Materials were delivered to the general. The general completed the training of the first professionally trained military for the Ambazonian people, the Akamatsus. They commissioned them. They presented them to you. You smiled. You felt a great sense of joy. You felt powerful. It gave you pride. It gave confidence to our people, our mothers, our sisters, our children on the territory. It challenged the occupier and changed international discussion. We are on it again. It's time we expand that force and deploy them to a very strategic place within the territory to start the process of total takeover. Once we have the forces and the strategic places in Ambazonia, now the total takeover can start. And that's what you have been waiting for. So in the coming days, expect the leaders to address you. Expect the top leaders within the AGOVC and ADF leadership to engage you, to address you. We will be having a big fundraising for the expansion of the Stabilization Force coming up in the next week or so. So we are going to be reaching out to you again. We are going to be reaching out to you, to your family, to your peers, to your friends. We are going to be reaching out to you again because our war of liberation is at a critical phase. We are at the tipping point of victory. We are at the tipping point of knocking Cameroon out. We need those forces in those strategic places to get the job done for the Ambazonian people. Thank you very much. I'm very humbled to have this conversation with you today. I'm happy that you are concerned, you need clarity, you're already excited, and you want to make a contribution in advance. Please, no matter where you are in the world, you can always reach me through WhatsApp or text me directly, set up a meeting. If your family wants to set up a meeting to have a chat with a leader, to say, hey, we've seen the great work you've been doing for the Ambazonian people. We're very excited about the direction and the trajectory of the revolution. We want to make a contribution. Maybe some Ambazonian papa and Ambazonian mommy. When I want to invite Dr. Eba from our house, when I talk, say, hey, Dr. Eba, we don't see the good work we do for the Ambazonian people. We'll be very proud. How will we support? How much will we support? How much you need them for move our people them forward? Maybe when I get a private conversation. We'll get my phone number there for here for the executive office. When I feel call at any time, we'll go set up that meeting between the family and the leader office. And the leader go address una for a private setting. And these meetings they be very confidential, they be very classified, except when I give the leader the permission or when I give you the permission, talk say, hey, we don't mind if we're not talking for outside. Or you don't mind if we make a contribution. So when our donations and when our contributions, number one, they be very classified, except when I talk say, if we announce them. All right. So any community organization, a community meeting, a community group, we want to make the leader visit them, talk for them, and explain few things for them or give them a sense of clarity. Even if when I want to know what did happen with what be this Ambazonia Biafra Alliance be all about. Now when a leader, when I get access for you, when I feel always ask for a meeting and we go organize a meeting for una. All right, and the leader. So for communities then, when I also know say we go to reach out for una, we go to send out personalized invitation letters for this fundraising when they come up. So if me and you never connect, send me a message for WhatsApp. Talk say PSSO. Look, for all what Dr. Abaro did do and for the Ambazonian people, I like the direction where they go. Please make sure say I get my own personalized invitation letter. Send me a message and we'll talk. We'll make sure say you get your own personalized invitation letter for all our other donors then. When I know say for all our families then, we'll count on winner as the leader don't promise. So each time when need be, we'll go to always reach out for una. So once again, we'll reach out for una, for can appeal for una, for support the expansion of the stabilization force phase 2. For all we're picking them for ground zero, where they don't shit down with their mommy them this evening for watch. I want to tell una so we love una plenty. For all our papa them and our mommy them, we want to tell una so we'll be very proud of una. And as we want assure una say, as we are picking them and as we are grand picking them, we don't give you the responsibility and we will blessing. We go end Cameroon occupation of our land and free our land. All right. For all our soldier them, I want to tell when I say when I place day, this war of liberation now when I hold and for one hand, for all our generals and commanders, make una know say now when I hold the key and the knife for end Cameroon, the presence for Ambazonia. Una actions, they get for be offensive actions, preemptive actions. Una go for them before they come for una. Any place where the day, better not sleep, better not chop. You know if you walk up for our streets, you know if you feel safe. The same thing with every enablers, with all the colonial authorities from Ambazonia. We now pick them up one after the other. Any person where it support the occupation, the colonialism, the genocide, the terrorism on the Ambazonian people as an enabler of the colonial regime, now also a legitimate target of the war of liberation. All right? When I place there, the focus now for dismantle the institution of occupation and dismantle the administrative or the administrators where they administer the occupation and the colonialism of Ambazonia, and then they administer the genocide and the human rights abuses and atrocities for Ambazonia. So they be a legitimate target under international law. Okay? So for all our generals them, General FM, you are placed there very high, pa. Awo. General Sumanguru, I salute you, Grandpa Devo, for your great work and your leadership. Awo. We salute all now. What generals them for the state of Mezam. Now una be fire, una cafe day. We salute all now. All our generals them across the 13 states. We call una cafe. As the leader don't talk. Anything with the una need them. The leader, the organization go mobilize them on behalf of them for the Ambazonian people them. For give una wetin una need them. For get the job done for the Ambazonian people them. Every other defense group on the ground join the Ambazonia Defense Forces for make us speed up this process for end the war. Most other organizations and groups, and we get calls every day. They need to take care of soldier them. They don't abandon soldier them. We get calls, forces them for coupe. They don't the call. Say they want join ADF. Forces them for Indian that they call for join the ADF. We get 2 groups them for Manuel that they call. Say they want to work under the ADF. So we call on all groups. We now come together, work together with the Ambazonia Defense Forces, make we deliver freedom to the Ambazonian people for this 2021. 2021 na the year of freedom. 2021 na the year of liberation. 2021 na the year where Cameroon go pack out of Ambazonia. So for soldier them, we stand with una and we deal with una. As the leader don't talk, anything we una need them for get the job done. The leader go mobilize them and make sure say una get what you una need them for give Ambazonian people them a free homeland. So may God bless all man. Would he talk again? I'll always be available for answer on a question then. Any man we want contact me for back. Would he talk? For now, may God bless all una. May una stay fine. Make una prosper for all the things they una do for all our people then for ground zero. May God keep una safe. Una get a good night. I be una brother Asu, una the press secretary for Governing Council of Ambazonia. May God bless una.